what implications do you think that your book and the study have for Gazans surviving the violence based on what you found? What are some things that you think would lead to a better percentage, a better chance of just surviving the conflict that they're in?
Right. That's a great question. It's a difficult one to answer. I have a couple ideas, I think, along that line. The first is when we talk about people being displaced or when people leave, you have to remember that it's a combination of motive and opportunity. The people that want to leave don't always have the opportunity. Sometimes you have an opportunity to safely exit. You don't have the motivation to because you just don't trust that you're going to stay safe on the road as opposed to sheltered in your apartment. And so one of the tragic realities we see right now is that even when the Israeli military says, okay, everyone move south, we're going to enter Gaza City. Even when you have the ability to do that, assuming the roads aren't blocked or destroyed, you're being displaced from your home. There's some chance you'll still be injured or killed. And if you're a Palestinian, the narrative or the perspective is, well, this is another catastrophe. We're experiencing the Gaza Nakba, right? Because there's this really legitimate fear that if we leave, we're not going to be able to come back. My ancestors left their homes before. We may be able to leave safely either to southern Gaza or through the Rafah crossing into the Sinai. We may be able to go safely into Egypt, but we're never going to be able to return to our homes.
Yeah.
Right. That's the first thing in terms of people that flee. The people that stay, it's difficult to wrap your mind around or appreciate just the sheer desperation of people, particularly in these dense urban environments, facing real scarcity of basic needs, of how they're going to navigate survival when you have Israeli soldiers now entering urban areas. You have Hamas fighters. You have not only the ground incursion, you have the aerial campaign. So how do you, what types of cost benefit analysis do you determine if you're safer in your apartment or not? Are you safer out in the open? Typically that would be the case. But when infrastructure is destroyed or the southern checkpoint at Rafah is bombed, you may not actually be no safer out in the open. And you can clearly be identified, let alone when you have schools, mosques, churches, and hospitals, where they're by design are civilians and fighters side by side.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a difficult reality, even for Israeli soldiers that want to draw those distinctions, targeting combatants instead of civilians. You're not going to have combatants dressed in military fatigues, right? That's going to undermine their ability to counteract Israeli military. So,
yeah, that's such a mind fuck that you could be safer out in the open in a place like Gaza. It seems so counterintuitive that you'd want to be inside a building, inside an infrastructure, but when 40% of the buildings get flattened, you're exactly right. It's like, what are your chances of survival? Maybe being outside may actually be better than being inside a building.
Yeah, and so this idea of remaining, the ability to remain autonomous or neutral or hide or lay low, that's our initial impulse. Most of us in those situations, would be what we pivot to first. It's just not sustainable. It's not a sustainable survival strategy in the long run.